name is Morgan-Paige Melbourne. I primarily just go by Morgan-Paige. I am an interdisciplinary artist, so my main focus is composition, piano, and singing primarily, but I like to dabble in various other art forms as well.
I have a child whose name is Morgan-Paige Melbourne. I tell you, this kid, from she was in my tummy, did a whole bunch of stuff to me. Very precise. Whatever she wanted, she got. I couldn't even brush my teeth with toothpaste. I had to switch to baking soda. Every night I was on stage singing with her in my tummy. She would kick, so I would have to sit on my husband's bass amp just so I could continue to sing while the pain of her kicking continued. Morgan-Paige Melbourne. What a journey. What a name. I had probably 2 hours labor with her. Couldn't wait to get out after hearing all that boom, 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 boom from the bass amp that I sat on every night. She was born on 19th of April 1995, the same day as the Oklahoma City bombing. And she came in with a blast. I would never forget it. From then, my life hasn't been the same. What a daughter. What a child. What a beautiful soul. She walked at the age of 8 months. So from there, we couldn't keep her still. She would not sit. She always had to go. At the age of, I guess, 1.5, she decided, we lived in the basement condo, so she decided she had to go. She grabbed my purse and she walked up 20 steps. Gotta go, gotta go, gotta go. She was always on the go. At the age of 3, I can remember her writing songs. She would just sing lyrics, sing the lyrics out as she's writing these songs. And I'm like, I told my husband, I said, Howard, this kid is writing songs. He says, no. Yes, she was. So I had to record her one day. I don't know where those recordings went, but that was the beginning for me with her musical journey. So at the age of 3, my older kid, Jania, at the time was playing violin. So I thought, okay, we'll give Morgan a violin, let her play. Well, she picked up the violin and she was doing okay. But then we realized, no, it may be a competition between the two. So we decided, okay, Morgan should probably take piano. Around the corner from us was a young teacher. She was teaching music for young children, I think. And, we checked out her program. It was kind of fun. It was all engaging with the children, learning rhythms and playing with different instruments and percussion, I guess. Very interesting. So we signed her up. We had to move from Huntsville to Guelph, I think within, 8 months to a year after that. So I looked fervently for, well, no, I was determined to find another music for young children program for her. So I found one in Guelph, and then we signed her up, took her there. We're in all the classes, the co-ed classes with the parents and the children. And at the end of the first semester with that teacher, they had to write a song. Wow. Morgan, she wrote an orchestral piece. It was so long. The teacher could not believe that this kid wrote this because we had to record it. I think she played it on the piano and we had to record it. When I took that in and I said, this is Morgan's piece that she wrote, she listened and she said, really? Did Morgan write this piece? Yes, she did. At the age of 3, I guess 3.5. That program was a little bit engaging, but we found out later that it was a little too slow for Morgan. She was ahead, and I think she was becoming bored. And being, familiar with the Suzuki program with my other child, we decided to look for a Suzuki piano teacher for Morgan. Well, we found one, an amazing teacher. She was a grassroots teacher. She was trained in Suzuki, but also in rudimentary theory. So she was the, I guess, grounding force for Morgan. This child who always had gotta go, gotta go, gotta go, gotta do all this stuff. Well, this teacher took that by the reins and she reeled her in and she trained her how to relax and how to read properly without just trying to figure out things with her ear, put her in competitions. And from then, the journey began. Morgan, she started competing. I think it was at the age of 5. I'm not quite sure, but I think at 5, she started competing into the Kiwanis music festivals. And it was a thrill. She enjoyed being on that stage because that stage was her home. She wanted to live nowhere else but on stage behind that piano. And she grew. She started writing different, pieces for herself, but mostly she was focused on competition. And me, the mother, being in the audience, I tell you, I prayed because she had so much gusto, and sometimes she would forget little areas of a piece because she's so into it. And I just sat my little self down in all the pew all the time. And I prayed and I concentrate on every finger that she would put on every single note, praying that, okay, Morgan, reel it in, control it, don't run away with it. So I was the prayer prophet for for all of her competition. Not able to watch her compete at all. I would close my eyes as when she got on that stage. I had to close my eyes because she had such a vibe, and she was so energetic. She just loved it, and she just ran with it when she on stage and playing music. That was the best thing in her life. I can also remember she was practicing for one of our bigger competitions. Maybe at the age of 13, we switched her over to a new music teacher who was just as strong and kept her under control as the first one. That she practiced so much, she hurt her right hand. And competition, I guess, was in a few months. She couldn't compete. But during that time, she had to still practice. Couldn't use the right hand. She had to still practice every day, 8 hours of practice a day, this child did. She created a piece with her left hand and called it, I think, the left hand concerto. I cannot remember the name of it, but it was the left.
It was an etude by one of the composers I was studying at the time.
Okay, very good. Very. So, in other words, nothing stopped Morgan from playing her piano. Music was her life. Morgan-Paige Melbourne is music. From she was in my tummy until she's grown up into this amazing, vivacious, creative young woman that she has become. I'm very proud of my child. I am so proud. Many, many, many competitions. I cannot even count the amount of competitions that she won. And focused.
When you first started competing, um, just what was that experience for you? Like, can you remember your first competition at all?
Oh, I definitely remember it. I don't remember what piece I did though, but it was my first competition. I think I was either like 7 or 9, something like that. And I was really excited. to participate. And my mom was with me, and then my piano teacher, Miss Florence White, was there as well. And we're gearing up, getting ready to go. And of course, we have parents and other teachers and others, and like coming up to myself and my mom, and then just out of the blue just started just saying the most stereotypical thing about black people to us as soon as we walk into the door. And we're just like, where is this coming from? And just like trying to see whether my mom had me when she was really young, and it's just like, oh, I don't believe you, and just like a lot of things, like making fun of my hair and everything, all before I had to go up on stage in 10 minutes. And I would play, and like the class went really well. It was pretty fun. But then once I finished, and like the competition class, whereas we were all leaving and we were packing up our bags and our coats, because it's like in the middle of winter. And so we're going down, and there's these stairways going down. And so we went there, put our coats, and then we were just about to head out. And then we had parents come up to me, and they're saying, oh, this is so strange. Like, black people don't play classical music. Shouldn't you be in jazz? And I'm like, but I'm playing classical. So just making fun of the fact that I wanted to be there, and that my teacher put me in a classical class, almost as if that it's never for black people and it's something that they can't do. And it was just a really degrading moment for myself, and it's just like, there's nobody that wants me here. And I dealt with that for years, even when I would eventually switch to my the last teacher, the piano teacher that I had, Rosemary Collins. And when I first saw her, because she had me throughout my entire teen years, and I told her, just like, there are parents and teachers, that don't necessarily like me in these competitions because of who I am. And then she's like, oh, it will get worse because they don't like me either. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes me feel a little better. So it's like, I'm not the only person that they despise going into competitions, So it was just having her teach me and just help me grow was so helpful, that it made me determined to stay in piano competitions. It was like, competitions are a necessary evil, and I would always get stressed the fuck out. Oh wait, I'm allowed to swear? Oh, sorry. It's like, I would stress the fuck out, right? Because like, you want to make sure that you're playing the pieces the way the composers write them, right? Or have written them. And on top of that, you're literally telling their story of how they felt at that time. So you're their own interpreter, you're their storyteller. And so finding ways to share that and like being graded on it is so nerve-wracking. But it was a really great practice for just performing in general. So overall, despite a lot of the discrimination and stuff, and the bullying that we faced, well, even Jania was there too, and my mom and myself, like, we were like a trio of bandits going into these competitions, and it felt so nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember going with you to those competitions, and I'm clueless about most things. So just like hearing you talk about kind of what would happen, before competitions, it was always just like really like sad for me to hear, like, you know what I mean? Because it's just, why do people do these things? But I was also really proud of you, to know that you were going through all of this before you had to perform, and you'd always get up there and just always be really professional and perform, give a great performance and do really well. So yeah, I was always really proud. Yeah, so can you talk a little about, I know you always have like, injuries are very common with you in piano. um, can you tell us about that time when you blacked out
Oh
at a
gosh.
competition?
Well, this was for like Ontario regionals for competitions, and I was there representing one of the township ones, and so we had to drive out about two or so hours to this competition, and we got there the day before just so we can have time to rest and relax and everything. And we went to this local mall, excuse me, and at the time I was vegan, but not by choice. I have a lot of food allergies that I am so sad about. Okay? Not fair. But anyways, I am deathly allergic to fish. Like, deathly allergic to fish. I will go into a full anaphylactic shock for that. Anyway, so being vegan just for safe, to be safe. So we went to this mall into the food court to get some food. And this was late at night. And I had competitions either at like 9 or 10 a.m. in the morning. And we went to this one of the restaurants in the fast food in the food court. And I ordered my dish and I said, please use vegetable sauce, like no fish oils. And they're like, okay, we got it. So we take the food back to our hotel and I'm eating it. And I'm like, within 10 minutes, it's just like, why do I feel so itchy? What's going on? Something feels wrong. And then all of a sudden I see hives on my arm. And I'm like, oh shit. They put fish in the food when I had told them not to. And so I went into full anaphylactic shock. This is around 11 p.m. now, 12 p.m. And so I went into anaphylactic shock, like my mom called 911, ambulance came in, brought me out of the room and took me to the hospital. I was in the hospital for a good 7 hours, 7 hours. And they're just waiting for me to calm down and everything. And so by that time, I still had to perform, right? It's like I still had to go to competition because with emergency, it's kind of hard to back out. Anyway, so now I only had about 2 hours sleep and I still had to get ready and I had to compete at 9 a.m. So we get back to the hotel. I am groggy as ever, still very out of it. And so we get ready. I grab my books, get dressed, and we head out the door. We go to the church where we're supposed to go. And mind you, there's at least 10, 12 other kids performing. So of course I still have to wait my turn. And I'm like in and out of it. I am not, it's so hard trying to focus. And of course you're playing all of this by memory. And I had about 25, 30 minute, I think I had about 25 to 30 minute program that I had to perform. And so by the time I was called up, I went up. And I was playing this sonata as well as one other piece. So that took up about 25 minutes. But as I was playing, right in the middle, I felt myself passing out. And I'm playing. And I'm like, oh boy, this is I feel something going off. And I was so out of it, I nearly blacked out. And I feel myself passing out at the piano, but I still have to keep going because I can't stop. I have to keep going. So I keep going. And I know I was just I know something happened within for a few seconds. And I think it was at the perfect, it just so happened I was at the perfect time when I had to rest before starting the next movement on the piece. So I kept going. And mind you, my head is falling down and it's not for performance reasons. It's I am literally knobbing and I remember that. And then there's just a couple seconds where I don't remember whatever happened, but I kept going. And so by the time I finished it, and I got up and I bowed and people clapped and there were people standing. I'm like, damn, this is really cool. So I sat back. And so after that, we were waiting for the adjudicator to finish, putting things together and stuff. And as you would do for, it's good sportsmanship and stuff, to compliment each other and support each other during this, but a lot of people were commenting on how good my performance was. And in my head, I'm like, really? I'm passing out at the piano. I was out. Anyway, so normally after that session, you would go up back to the piano with the adjudicator, and they would run through the notes. And there was nothing wrong with my performance whatsoever. Like, my performance was really, really good. But this particular adjudicator, I remembered that I had from last time, because they were known for, like, not being equal when it came down to BIPOC competitors, and purposefully put certain kids who are of a certain race on the lower part of the competition, and then put other kids of other races on the higher part where they can continue on to nationals, right? And that happened to me once before with this adjudicator, and they literally gave me a low ranking for absolutely no reason at all. And for this blackout performance, like, there was nothing wrong with my performance. Like, they literally had nothing to say other than good things. And I was second last in the entire competition for my age group. And there were like 30 kids. And so I was so confused. And there were even parents and teachers that came up to myself and to my mom. They were saying, like, your kid played amazingly. It doesn't make sense why they were put second last, right? It didn't make sense at all. And I saw, again, the exact same thing. Put a certain race of kids on the bottom of the ranking, and put a certain race of kids on the top of the ranking. And it was just like, what in the world? So that was, I think I only did 2 other competitions after that, but I was done. And on top of that, I'm still trying to recover from having an anaphylactic shock the night before. So having to deal with this, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense, right? And like, from what I remember, like, there were any mistakes, and I was still able, and I felt like I was still being emotional and through the performance, but of course emotional in the case where I'm nearly passing out, or basically passed out. I don't necessarily remember what happened those few seconds, but it was just weird. And the thing that sucks is that with that particular competition, you can't make a complaint. And and my family is not one to, like, make a complaint about rankings or whatever or anything, or for injustice. But even when it comes down to knowing that someone's being racist, they won't accept it. So we knew couldn't do anything now. So that particular competition, that was the last time I ever went to that competition, because I was done. And I've done those ones for years, and it's just like, I was just out of it. I was like, that's it. Because I knew if that adjudicator was going to be again, it's going to be the exact same thing. And it wasn't going to be fair to myself or to any other BIPOC kid that was there. So it's just like, and it's so sad that that's how it was. I really hope that they have changed. Like, I really, really hope they changed. But it's legit that you could not go up talking to the adjudicator talking about your mark, even when you know they're being racist. It's just like, but yeah, that's one of the reasons why I just stopped, because it was over 12, 13 years of dealing with the same thing. So it's just like, I'm done with that shit. So I was like, no more.
Yeah. Oh my God. Jesus. Wow.
But there are also some really amazing adjudicators. I will say there are also some awesome adjudicators who I still connect with to this day that were super amazing and also helped propel my work and also kept me driven to wanting to keep doing piano, So I will say that, but there's just a lot of those cases where it's just not fun. Not fun.
What was your, so the last one on competitions, what was your, like, favorite or, like, best memory, best moment about a competition?
There was one year when people started to realize that I am not going anywhere, that I'm still sticking around. And so they were finally respecting me. And I was 16, 17 at the time. I'm like, okay, it only took a decade and a bit. All right. We're a little short of a decade. It only took that many years, but we got there. So once that started to happen, then I felt a lot more comfortable with going to competitions because I made friends in these competitions over the years, and I'm still friends with quite a few, with a few of them to this day, and we still talk. And it's really cool because you do get to meet people and build memories. So that's something that really that was definitely a memorable moment for sure. It's just like actually being able to connect with people when they're actually talking to me respectfully. And it's like, nice. So nice.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad you have, yeah, good memories from competition, and yeah, and again, I'm just so proud of you because all this shit that you're going through, and to still always be poised and professional and give your best performance on stage, and like, to the audience, like as an audience member listening, whether you're fainting at the piano, or whatever is going on in your head that you don't feel is right, you never show it in a performance. You never show it. The audience can never tell. And like, you just, I'm so proud of you for that.
The writing began at such an early age. From the age of 3.5, I can remember recording that. It died out a little bit because she had to focus on so many pieces for her performances and competitions. But then I think it came back, I don't know, at the age of 15. You took a writing class at one point.
Was it a writing class? I think it was uh I think I was just getting back into songwriting. It was more so just for myself. But in school, I found myself when we were studying English. I think in grade 5 and 6 was when I started writing poetry a lot more because we were starting to we were learning about it in English, and then I think that kind of catapulted a bit from there. So then once I kind of got into songwriting around 14, 15, that's kind of where that started. And then that whole the way I wanted to sound when it didn't sound like it kind of started, and then it kind of backpedaled for a bit. So then I just focused more on just piano by itself with my own compositions. And of course, when I would forget how pieces go during competition, just improvise it. It's like,
Just improvise, make it up. Yes, yes. And the songwriting was an amazing outlet for Morgan. As a teenager going through so many things, and as parents, you try to get into your children's heads. I let them know that I was there, but I wasn't really there because I had to let them know that someone was in control somewhere, just, so we can have a little bit of a hold, to be able to say things that they would listen to and heed to some advice. But really, in general, Morgan's writing helped her through, I think, the most darkest periods in her teenage years. And I am very, very thankful that she had her music to fall back on, um, to pull her through those periods. And I would ask her sometimes, the poetry she would write, I said, why does it always have to be so dark? But it was what she was going through. And I think that helped her to find her way, into growing into this amazing young person that she is. Oh, Morgan. I love you, Morgan.
I love you too, Mama.
What a journey. But in all our life, in all of our works, and all of our challenges that we face, we develop character. Well, honey, you had a lot of character development, I gotta tell you. And I'm so happy. I'm very happy. And it goes on, it never ends. As long as we live, we will have challenges. But the learning that you have had, I pray will continue with you to guide you through, to be the best that you could be. I love you.
Love you too. Thank you.
Around what age did you start producing your own music? And how did you feel when you were writing the songs? Like what inspired you to write the type of music that you wrote? And what kind of instrumentation did you have back then?
So I started taking writing seriously when I was 13. At the time, I really just used the piano and the guitar for the most part. And I kind of just mainly did it for myself. At that time, I was really going through a lot of depression from various things. And I wasn't diagnosed with depression until I was 16, 17. But because basically from age 9, just from like a lot of things that was going on. I had like suicidal thoughts since I was 9, and it's like, what kid has suicidal thoughts since 9? And for years, my dad never really quite understood that, and always made fun of me for that, and always thought that I was just seeking attention or whatever. So once I reached my double digits, I was pretty much just mute for the most part, didn't really talk to anybody about anything. So I started really getting into writing when I was 12, 13. And then 14, of course, for somehow my dad didn't know that I could sing. He was surprised that I could sing. And so he's just like, okay, you're gonna have your sister start teaching you how to sing, and do these vocal lessons and everything. And so he had this whole, raise a pop star style mentality with me. And that wasn't exactly, like, sure, I wanted to perform, but that wasn't exactly what I wanted. And of course, like, Hannah Montana was very popular at the time. And so that was when my dad started like putting me on like a regiment, like of working out and eating and stuff, and probably teaching me how to walk probably too, because I used to walk like with my feet out, and like there's nothing wrong with walking however you want, but my dad was so worried with how my feet were looking when I would walk, and so he would retrain me how to walk because it didn't look right. And so during that time, so from like 13 to 16, whenever I would write my own music, he would change it to what would sound best on the radio, not necessarily what I would want from my voice. And mind you, this is coming from a kid that doesn't tell anybody anything. And especially with having a father who doesn't take your mental health seriously. And especially when you're in a Caribbean Black household where, they make fun of therapists and call them shrinks, and they won't do anything for you, and it's like people who go to therapy are useless, and there's like this whole of Black women are always so strong trope where we're not even allowed to be vulnerable ourselves. So I masked a lot, and I reached my breaking point. So much like I literally, in my teens, like every day I would try to find a way to off myself. And it's just, there's a lot of other unpacking through that. But specifically for music, like writing was my only way. And having dad somewhat listening, but not quite listening, and then changing the entire route of it into something that would be more consumable for pop, or set it out to all these record companies, and or it's like and making promises on top of that of, oh, you're gonna do this and you'll be able to see this and be on this, and it's just like, that's not what's happening. And the only thing that I could do music wise that he had no idea about was classical music, which was another reason why I was so adamant about being a professional concert pianist, because he could not tell me shit about it. So when I was 16, I kept writing, throughout my teens and throughout my teens into my 20s, more so on the poetry side of things. But in terms of songwriting, I stopped for years. I didn't write any songs to write or sing for years, because I knew it would not be done in a way that I wanted to. And I didn't know how to produce music yet, but but from watching him, I was able to remember some of those things. So then I was able to do it, within the last few years, and I've been doing it now, getting back to songwriting. But it was a journey for sure. But with that, I also developed an eating disorder on top of it. And of course, being scared to eat in front of my family, because at the time they're worried about me getting too heavy and then having to put me on working out. And mind you, I already despised working out, because it was brought to me in a way that they made me feel so ashamed of my body. And the thing is, it wasn't just me, it was my siblings as well. So all three of us went through this shit, the exact same thing, all of us. And because I was, of course, the youngest in the family, always tends to be the loudest. Again, I apologize to my siblings for being such a rebel, but, of course, speaking out to dad, I would talk back to a way, of course, that got me in trouble, but it was I was just done being a puppet. I was done, and I needed to get out, and I've always known I needed to get out. And so that only way that I could do it was through competition. And understanding now that with my ADHD, I had to focus on certain things. Of course, my mind's everywhere and I want to do everything, but just to make sure that I have something for myself, I literally hid all of my writings from my dad so that he wouldn't know, and so he wouldn't change it to something else. So I would literally put it under lock and key into a book so that he can never find. And so he literally passed without knowing that I have a book full of writings. I was like, that's free, But yeah, so it's just being able to use my voice the way that I wanted to, and finally doing what it is that I want for once, without having somebody looking over my shoulder, constantly telling me how bad it is or being critical of it all, and just doing whatever the fuck I want. It's so freeing. It's so freeing, and I can finally say what it is, and I know my music was never meant to be streamed on the pop scene or whatever. It's something completely different, which I'm totally cool with. I'm cool with that. It was I'm not gonna be on billboards or anything. I mean, that would be dope, don't get me wrong, that'd be dope, but in terms of popular music, that's not what I do, and I'm so cool with that. And so being able to explore my artistry through producing it myself, right? And of course, I've yet to be able to be at the position where I can pay people to also do other things that I can't. So to be able to do other things, I have to learn how to do it and do it myself. And then that just makes it even cooler that I'm taking time to learn how to do these skills and I can apply it to my work and it still works out. You know, trial and error, baby. That's how we roll. But it's like I feel so free. You know? And I honestly never thought that I would ever made it. There are really certain things that if it didn't happen that way, I know I wouldn't have been here. It was that bad. But so I'm just so grateful for the people around me, for the family that I have, because without them, I don't know where I'd be, honestly.
Yeah. Damn, kid. I love you. So proud. Oh my God, Morgan. So proud. Yeah, definitely glad you're able to eventually find your voice and figuring out, you know, that classical music was a path that you could take, that gave you the freedom from Dad producing you. Yeah, I was very, very proud when you took that route, because yeah, that was something that he could not. There was nothing he could criticize about. There was nothing that he could change. I mean, he tried to criticize about
everything,
things, but it was so far out of his area of expertise that that did give you the freedom, you know, the beginning of the freedom to get away from for him. And yeah, very proud that you figured that out and you were able to take that journey, because you from you were tiny, you were meant to do music in some way, shape, or form. That is your destiny, that is your calling. So I'm glad that Dad didn't take everything music wise, like kill that music spirit in you, and that you were able to shape it and take it in a different direction so that you could still continue to do music, because you are a musician through and through, and it's something that you're meant to do. So I'm very glad that you're able to find another way to share your voice. Yeah.
I love you.
I love you too. After, you know, the experience that you had with Dad, growing up artistically, once we moved, and we moved out of the house, we went to Toronto, and you finally had that freedom to do what you wanted and to express yourself the way that you wanted. Yeah, how have you grown as a musician, and what was kind of like the best part of that experience, and how did your creative process and what did you start doing? I don't know how to phrase this question, but yeah.
The best part of that experience? Freedom. Okay, no. To be serious. No, I was able to finally do, well, first off, like when we moved to Toronto, I took a year off from music. I didn't do anything music related, because I was doing music and competing for 18 years straight. Wait, no, hold on, my math is wrong. I'm just gonna say over 10 years straight, just to be safe, so I don't get my the timelines wrong, because math in my brain right now ain't working too much. Just this moment. I'm not horrible at math, just not right now. Not right now. But, no, but like, after just basically competing for over 10 years straight, didn't have much of a break at all, and I was just burned out. So I just took a whole year of not doing anything and just working, just experiencing life that I didn't get to experience in a way. So I had a real chill job for a year, and it was really fun. Of course, got to meet a lot of many characters. But I digress. But no, it was really nice just taking that bit of a break. And so after that, I felt like I was ready to really get back into it again. So I started off with just piano accompaniment and getting back into teaching music. But then from there, because I had acquaintances and friends who were, like asking me to take part in some of the projects, I was able to do that. And from other performances that I had done in Toronto prior to moving, I had established the base of connections to kind of get me started with everything. And it's been a wild time. Like, I am so fucking grateful that I can do this, because I never thought it'd be possible or it's something that was even achievable. So I'm immensely grateful. And however long this ride is, I'm gonna just take it and just really enjoy it. And so in terms of my creative process, it is so random. It is very random. It will happen at any given moment, any time, and oftentimes I tend to work grave shift hours, so that seems to be a thing. And when we were living in our first place in the apartment building, Janine is always like, Morgan, you cannot sing in the middle of the night. There are other people in this building. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm trying. There's one part. It's like, Janine's like, no, wait until the morning. I'm like, fine. But having completed a full album and 2 EPs in the apartment building, I would like to thank all my neighbors that were there. I am so sorry. But thank you for dealing with my screamings into the microphone during the day and in the morning, going to nighttime. I am very grateful. Very grateful. Very grateful. So yes, but having been here, it's been really, really cool. Definitely, I've been diving into a lot of digital media or digital forms for music consumption, which has been really cool. So I've had a couple performances at Kerner Hall that were all live streamed during the pandemic, and I've been a part of their 21C Music Festival, which is primarily a music festival celebrating contemporary and new music by Canadian composers or performed by Canadian artists, and there's also visiting artists as well. So I'm so immensely grateful to have been a part of that. I have written for short films that have won awards at film festivals, including one of my own that I collaborated with Tapestry Opera and Rock Bottom Movement for, and that itself won an award too, which is really cool.
What was that one about?
So it was kind of like a little bit of a highlight of my mental health journey, and since it was in the middle of the pandemic, it was kind of just went parallel with trying to find yourself and how the world is in the moment. And so even though you can't exactly find that perfect joy at the end, you know that there's a little glimpse of hope towards the end of it. So that's kind of the gist of it. And for that team, we had an incredible dancer from Rock Bottom Movement named Natasha, and her choreographer Alyssa, who I've worked with on other projects where we had other short films as well. Called Bin Chicken was one of the ones that I collaborated with them on, performing Beethoven's Hammer Clavier Sonata. And it's such a wild time. It was really amazing. And just being a part of that, and it's actually seeing that people are enjoying themselves or actually sharing their emotions and how it made them feel, it's just like, whoa, you mean it can happen like that? Yeah, that was really wild. And I've also had a chance to be a part of a workshop. I was invited to participate in a workshop through the music gallery of how to learn photogrammetry and implement that with VR, and how that can be another form of bringing music into another space. And it's like, whoa, okay, I didn't even realize that. So now that's literally all I do on top of everything. And so from that, I was able to, I was invited to create a sound art installation at the Museum of Contemporary Art here in Toronto. And that was up for a month and a bit, and they still have the VR room that goes with it available on their website as well. And yeah, my work has been featured in the Whole Note magazine, and a few others as well. I am trying to remember the names. If you can you put them down here somewhere? Thank you. Okay, thank you. I just totally blanked out. I'm so sorry, but to the writers who interviewed me, thank you so much. That was really cool. Oh my gosh. And thank you for being able to paraphrase, because when I talk, I get very long-winded and I'm not quite sure what to say. But thank you for being able to paraphrase. I appreciate it. But yeah, and I had a chance to perform in France as part of a silent film troupe.
Ooh, right. Your whole Europe tour. What? Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit more about Europe? What you were doing there?
So, there is an agent that I work with on and off, and he presented me with a project to be the piano accompanist for silent films. And this was a good few years ago. And I'm like, sure, I'll try it out. I've never done it, and because a lot of it is improvised and stuff. And so I connected with the founder and organizer, Philip Sorrell, and he kind of introduced me to that. And so we had our first show in Fergus, and this was back in 2017. And he's like, I heard, and at the time I got into an artist residency in France. And he's like, I heard you got into this residency. And he's like, well, we're planning on doing like a mini tour or for silent films, and we wanted to know if you want to join. I'm like, I'm in. So we were able to do, have a 3-night performance in Besançon, France, with an incredible clarinetist and cellists who were there, who were locals as well. And so it brought in over 300 people that entire weekend, and it was so much fun. And so now I'm a part of the roster for silent films based in Montreal and also Toronto here too. So that's been pretty neat as well. So being able to travel and do that, it's been wicked.
Did you compose the music for that?
Yeah, I composed the music and the arrangements to go with it for all of it. Yeah, and of course it's mainly just guidelines, and everything else is improvised, and you kind of vibe off with all the other instruments and stuff. So, but yeah, I was the music director for those.
Cool.
Yeah. So we start on A. So we're gonna go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3. Okay. So we're gonna turn on D.
How did you get into teaching piano and choir? Because you teach kids, right?
Yeah.
Teach kids music. How did you
get
into that? What's
I
that like?
got into it. So I heard about a local nonprofit organization that provides free music education to youths from more of the from areas of Toronto that the city doesn't quite look after very well. And I'm like, okay, I want to try to do a fundraiser for them. So I had this one concert where it just so happened that no one showed up, but we did a live stream of it as well, and people were still donating online, which was really cool. And from there, I met the general manager from Systema Toronto, and she was amazing, and she's just like thank you so much for doing this. And this was around the time when my dad was I think about just a month before he had passed, and 2 weeks prior to his passing, I got a job offer at Transformative saying, "Hey, we're looking for a piano accompanist to work with the kids during the choirs, and would you like to join?" I'm like, oh, "Well, yes, please." And so they gave me some time gave me grieving time as well after my dad's passing, and then I was able to start working there. From there, I explored a lot of different positions as well. So I help co-direct choirs at 2 of the centers, and one of the centers I am the choir director for, and I am still the piano accompanist for all centers. And then from there, one of my co-workers, she works at another location, is like, "Hey, you want to come with me to work at another location?" I'm like, "Sure, okay." So it's for another music group, and I was able to teach piano there and was also the piano accompanist for that crew as well. And so that's kind of like how I was able to kind of spread out within my teachings and everything. So I still work with them, and it's really fun.
That's cool. And so in this COVID time that we're in now, how are you? Are you still teaching online, and how do you teach music online to a bunch of kids when you can't be there with them in person and interacting with them in person? How do you find that? How do you like that? How do you do it?
Well, it's every day is different, that's for sure. And like I'm still able to teach online, which I'm really happy about and I'm grateful for. So we were all of my workplaces were able to kind of work that out, and some of the students I just ended up teaching privately, since one of them unfortunately had to call it quits on their organizations due to lower funding and everybody just trying to survive, so mainly with my private piano students, I work with them individually based on what it is that they are able to work on in the moment. So you can only do so much planning, especially like there's Zoom fatigue is a real thing, as we all know. And I don't want to force any kid to have to do something when they're not in that mindset. So a lot of it is just exploring their own creativity and letting that blossom. So then by the time once we're able to like really work together, then we can kind of focus a little bit more on that. But there are amazing online resources that I use to kind of help do that. And there are some cases where, yes, we're able to do a lot of piano music as well. So it's a lot of listening carefully and showing your hands of where everything's going. And then there are theory games and music games that are out there. But oftentimes I have them explore improvising, because like you need that sort of freedom and just to do what you want, because so many things are so constrained, but it doesn't have to be that way. So having that, and then also teaching them how to produce their own music as well, because like there's free online tools to do that. So they're learning how to edit their music, they're learning how to write their own music and come up with different things no matter how it sounds. It's like every single sound is music, and you can put that in any shape or form you want. And then for the choir students, we work on the voice and everything. And then, of course, it has been, as the days keep going on, especially this last few months, it's been quite tough for them. So we're like, you know what? Let's just focus on just the creative aspect, because it doesn't have to be just one thing, and because their mental health comes first. And the music will come after. The music comes naturally, but their headspace comes first and foremost, because it's rough out there right now, especially, and I'm not going to put anything on a kid when they're not in that space. That's not fair. I know what that's like. It ain't fair. So just have them explore it. But yeah, like if we're able to sneak in a music lesson in there, that's fantastic. But I don't force it.
And how do you feel now that you're in a position where you're able to help these kids on their musical journey And just knowing the musical journey that you've been through, how do you feel being able to like give back to them and just and to just help? Because you're so, I don't even know how to phrase this question, just because like I hear you when you do your lessons, and you're so great with the kids, and you're so patient and understanding and supportive with them. And I'm just wondering how you feel being able to, you know, teach and give back in that way, just knowing your journey and what you've gone through.
You know, they're just cool, man. They're just cool. And I learned so much from them too. Like, it's just inspiring all around. I mean, it's honestly an honor to teach them, because I get to see them become the people that they are, and I can see where they can go no matter what path they decide to choose. But it's honestly an honor to teach them. Like, it ain't about how I feel, but it's just so wicked seeing them grow. And it's just like, yo, you're doing that. It's like, and then this, it's amazing showing them how when you show them something and they're actually doing it, they're like, oh, I mean, I did that right? They actually take that? They actually heard me? Like, I'm still surprised today, because like a lot of times I always question myself whether, am I doing the right thing? Like, am I teaching the right thing? Because I'm always worried about teaching the wrong thing. But it's like, no, it's like everything. It's like a learning process for anything and everything. So it's just, it's honestly a blessing being able to teach them and see that progress. It's fun. It's fun. They're cool. They're so cool. Kids are cool, man. They're fun.
What is Requiem for the Lost? And just, yeah, where did the inspiration come from to write that song? And right, and then we'll talk about like how did you produce it, right?
So Requiem for the Lost, when writing it, it was kind of just like it was very much a spur in the moment thing. But as it kept going, I noticed that there was this theme of wanting to create a voice that's kind of speaks for all of those who were forced into silence and forced to not being able to say what's on their minds, especially with all of the fascism and racism that's out there, and people are not allowed to protest in a way based on who they are as people, just to have a human right to live your life as who you are. And when you protest, you get beat up and put in jail and other things. I mean, almost like always end up dead just based on the color of skin, just for wanting to just asking for, you know, a right to live, which is not right, you know. And a lot of this has been piled upon classicism, colonialism, and there's so many layers. And for me, when talking about these things, I'm not really good talking about it, you know, in like a speech or a podcast or doing these different things or like in different ways, right? So I do mine through music, which is one of the easier way for me to do that. And so a Requiem is based on that. So it was definitely just like, it just hit me and I just had to write it. And so it was done within 12 hours. So I think I came up with the beat first, because it's like, it goes back and forth between piano and singing, like instrumental and singing. It goes back and forth between that, just really playing a part of trying to find some sort of peace in this mess. But then the anger builds up and you can't help it. And so you're literally begging for it. So that kind of plays a part in it. And it's a 20-something minute long piece, so you know I'm long-winded. So that's kind of the basis of that song, or that piece. Requiem is, the reason why I chose that word it is Latin for Mass for the Dead. So it's basically paying homage to those who were gone or who were lost within the sea of voices that can't be said. And so there's this character that I created who is the voice of for all of them, and they will rain down on you because of all the shit that you've done to them, right? So it's almost like karma coming back to bite you in the ass. That's basically that's what it's for. So it's an homage to them, to us. And the reason why I used Latin is, of course, like another connection within traditional Western culture of having to conform to this and everything, and that all of this culture that's within it is perfect, and nobody else of any other background is like, it's not viewed as well as that, and it's like only the greats use this. But it's like, okay, I'm going to take that, bring it on back, and use it against that. you know. But of course, don't get me wrong, there's like beautiful languages that have been derived from Latin, and it's really cool, but I'm using it but it's being used in the context of showing that my blackness, or any person of color, the culture is beautiful, and we can blend it in whichever way, shape, or form we can to voice what's going on. And this is how I use it. So this is Requiem for the Lost. It's kind of divvied up in multiple sections. So in the beginning we had like kind of like the chorus introducing it a little bit, so letting them know what's going on. So then here the section is the piano solo part. So it's basically meant for piano and string orchestra, which is written out. So technically it can actually be played by a soloist and an orchestra with it as well. This entire piece can actually be done with orchestra as well as electronics too. So this is the first part of it where it's just instrumental, and then the second part is going to be coming in around after this section here. So there is 52 tracks that involves string instruments, percussion, then you have choir, vocals on top of it as well, so there's multiple layers. It has, going through it, there are at least 3 contrasting melodies that goes against it to kind of give that little bit of an uneasy feel to some sections to really help propel the music forward. Yes, so it's kind of like a combination of things.
So, which instruments did you use in it? Like, how did you record it? I know you like to make your own beats and some of your own sounds. Can you just talk about how you made some of those sounds, created some of those sounds?
Yeah, so most part, when it came down to more of the percussive stuff, I actually used the piano at my mom's place. So, because my grand piano was there. So I used the body of the piano to do that. So I used that as like the drum on the lid. And then I kind of did some scratching noises as well. And there's clapping in there. So body percussion, so using the hands and then like the chest and kind of vibing between there. and also using my mouth as well for some of these. Disc is too slow or system overload. Okay, well. Oh, I think it's probably just this. It's just So I also, in this section here, I used what's called a prepared piano. So it's kind of, I put a towel inside the piano on the strings, and then I pressed my hand on top of it to kind of give it that tightened sound, so so the hammers can't quite let the strings resonate very well. So it kind of has like this prick sound to it. And then I just did the octaves to it to kind of like let it go and let it do its own thing. And so to make sure that the sound of the drumming on the piano lid comes through, I just amplified the space a little bit and changed the instrumentation on it. So I was able to kind of switch to like make it sound like bongos a little bit and kind of tweaked it so it can have more of an air around it. And then I added bass on top of that as well, mainly particularly for the section. And then all of the vocalizations just help fill in the gaps that go in, and so everything comes in a little bit layered, a little bit over and over again, and then kind of just coax the area for it. And on top of that, I use the synthesizer that I have there to kind of fill in other sections that I needed that I don't have instruments for. So yes, I do hope to have this room filled with instruments, so it's a little easier for it. But yeah, just using what we got. Make do with what you got.
Very cool. What's your favorite part of this song?
Anything that has to do with harmonies. So it's actually down here. Because it's all a cappella, and it's so spooky. Because it's like, it just stops and it makes you think and ponder about things. It's my favorite part. It's like no instruments, it's just voices, just layers, and it was fun to do. Of course, no planning as to what notes I want to use. It's just let's just try it and see how it sounds. Okay, it works. So no planning, just going for it, just riffing off of it.
That is so cool. I had a lot of fun mixing this.
And I also apologize profusely. Oh yeah, it's not just this section down here, because it's all the way up here too. So it took Jania 2-3 days to. I'm sorry.
It was fun. Like, I just enjoyed how many layers, 52 tracks in there. And I know for me, just mixing all of those tracks and arranging it like 360. Like, I love surround sound, so kind of giving it that panning it into the left ear, the right ear, kind of the spaces in between. It was just really, really fun to mix. So
this was a fun one.
Yeah, this was fun. I had fun with this too.
This was fun. It's so much fun. But I think also the chorus is my favorite part too. This is cool. And I think I'm gonna push ahead a little bit. When everything comes together at the end. Can't wait to get studio speakers and just let it rumble.
What I love about this one is if you have good bass speakers, the rumble and the low ends, the bass, it's like you need good speakers with like a bass to really hear all that down there. It's
like
really
there's
cool what
hidden
you did.
sounds. There's hidden sounds that you won't hear unless you have a subwoofer, legit subwoofer. Because I wanted to make sure like every single crevice of sound was taken up. So it's like it has to be like I want your body to feel it. So yeah, there's some sounds that you will not hear, not even through these speakers. Some days through these speakers. Someday, but yes, someday.
Thanks for taking us through this and giving us a little insight into your creative process.
No problem.
That's awesome.
I feel like I'm starting to look like a turtle with my head like this. You're welcome. Glad I could be of service.